In the dense, moonlit jungles of West Bengal, aboard the Maria Express, on the night of September 2nd, 2010, a storm was brewing, not of nature, but of human malice. Inside a compartment, 35-year-old Bishnu Shrestha, a retired Gurkha soldier of the Indian Army, sat quietly, unaware that his life was about to take a turn that would etch his name into the annals of heroism. The train, a lifeline through the wilderness, suddenly screeched to a halt. From the shadows emerged a horde of 30 to 40 armed bandits. Their faces were masked, but their intentions were crystal clear. They stormed the aisles, brandishing knives, clubs, and pistols, demanding valuables from terrified passengers. The air was thick with fear as wallets, jewelry, and electronics were seized under the threat of violence. Shrestha had just returned to his seat after a brief rest. He was prepared to comply with the robbers' demands. But then he heard it, a girl's desperate cry. An 18-year-old girl, seated beside him, was being dragged away by the assailants, her pleas for help echoing through the compartment. Without hesitation, Shrestha's instincts kicked in. He reached for the curved kukri knife that every Gurkha soldier carries, a symbol of their honor and readiness. In an instant, the train transformed into a battlefield. Shrestha, with the precision of a deadly warrior, lunged at the nearest bandit. His kukri flashed like a lightning bolt in the dim light. The blade found its mark, and the first assailant crumpled to the ground. Shouts of surprise and pain filled the air as Shrestha fought with unmatched ferocity. Each strike a testament to his training and resolve. He managed to kill three, but the tide of battle shifted. In the chaos, Shrestha was overpowered. His kukri was wrenched from his grasp and turned against him. A deep gash opened on his left arm, and he collapsed, blood staining the floor beneath him. The robbers, seeing their chance, fled into the night, leaving behind a trail of stolen goods and wounded comrades. As the train resumed its journey, the passengers, once paralyzed by fear, began to stir. The girl, saved from the clutches of her would-be assailants, approached Shrestha, her savior. With the help of fellow passengers, Shrestha was rushed to the nearest hospital, where he underwent 2 months of treatment to recover from his injuries. In the aftermath, 6 robbers were apprehended, and a significant haul of stolen items was recovered, including cash, mobile phones, wristwatches, and weapons. Shrestha's bravery did not go unnoticed. He was honored with the Sena Medal and the Uttam Jeevan Raksha Pagak, 2 of India's highest awards for gallantry. Despite the accolades, Shrestha remained humble. When the girl's family offered him a substantial cash reward, he declined, stating, "Fighting the enemy in battle is my duty as a soldier. Taking on the thugs on the train was my duty as a human being." Bishnu Shrestha's story is not just one of physical bravery, but of moral courage and selflessness. In a world often overshadowed by darkness, his actions shone brightly, reminding us all of the power of one individual's resolve to make a difference. What happens when the horrors of war strip away every shred of humanity, leaving men to behave worse than animals? Can survival in such an environment ever be justified? Or is it simply fate mocking the lives lost? The sky was torn open by the roar of engines, a chaotic thunder that echoed across the Pacific. A young and fearless captain was leading his squadron over the desolate island of Chichijima, a routine bombing run in the summer of 1944. At least it was supposed to be. But in a split second, everything changed. A flash of enemy fire, a violent shake. The world around him twisted and spun, the tail of his plane exploding in a shower of sparks. His stomach lurched, and with one last act of desperate courage, the captain yanked at the ejection lever, hurling himself out of the doomed aircraft. The wind howled as he plummeted into the chaos below. His parachute opened with a violent jerk, but the island below was no sanctuary. The island of Chichijima, under Japanese occupation, was a blackened stain on the map. The airmen who hadn't been fortunate enough to eject were captured by the enemy, their fates sealed in a cruel, unrelenting fate. Beaten, tortured, and executed, these men would endure horrors beyond comprehension. But it wasn't just the execution that would haunt the island. Japanese officers, in a grotesque mockery of civilization, feasted on their fallen comrades. At least 4 of the airmen's livers and thigh meat were consumed during a banquet of unspeakable depravity, an act that would forever stain the history of war. 9 American airmen had set out that day. Only 1 would return alive. Captain George H.W. Bush was plucked from the clutches of death by the USS Finback, a submarine lurking in the shadows beneath the waves. Safe, alive, but forever scarred. In the years that followed, the haunting images of Chichijima never left him. He couldn't escape the nightmares of his comrades, their faces twisted in pain, their last breath stolen by the cruelty of Nan. He was one of the few who had seen war at its darkest, its most savage. And yet, he was the one who lived. But what would that survival mean? He often reflected on why he was spared, and what his destiny might be. In 1946, a military tribunal in Tokyo would finally bring justice to those responsible for the atrocities on Chichijima. Lieutenant General Yoshio Tachibana, along with 11 other Japanese officers, stood trial for the murder and cannibalism of the American airmen. They were found guilty of war crimes, but the question remained: could any sentence truly pay for what they had done? Bush never truly found peace after the war. As the years passed, he ascended the ranks, entering the world of politics, his mind forever haunted by the island's ghosts. The incident shaped him, molded him, forged him into a man whose heart carried the weight of that tragic chapter of history. Who would have thought that the boy who had narrowly escaped the jaws of death in a far-off island would one day stand at the highest office in the land? The man who survived the worst of humanity would become a symbol of power, fate, and destiny. George H.W. Bush, the survivor who walked away from the island of the damned,